Bansuri Swaraj is with us this evening. She's a Lok Sabha member of Parliament, of course, from the BJP. Ms. Swaraj, you know, the Prime Minister is appointed by the President, and the other ministers are appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister. The opposition accuses you of trying to subvert this. Appointed by the President but removed at the will of the station house officer of the closest Thana, who can put you in for judicial custody for 15 days and easily get an additional remand in police or judicial custody for another 15 days. In a country where jails are full of under-trials, this is a very dangerous precedent. The obvious fear is that you will use your investigating agencies to arrest people inimical to you and then within 30 days force them out of office. How democratic is that?
Thank you, Arnab. First of all, this is bah humbug. What the opposition is absolutely bah humbug. And I'll tell you why. This bill is being brought because for the first time in the democratic history of India, we had individuals like Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, who was arrested on 21st of March 2024, but did not resign until 17th of September 2024 and insisted on running his Delhi government from jail, bringing absolute policy paralysis. Not only that, Mr. Satyendra Jain, who was arrested on 31st of May 2022, did not resign until 28th of February 2023 and continued to function from jail for 9 months. In contrast, Arnab, I want to actually show this. When Mr. L.K. Advani was actually accused, he was never arrested. He was named in the Hawala case in 1996 and immediately resigned. He only contested the election in 1998 once the charges were quashed on 8th of April 1997. Similarly, Mr. Amit Shah, who was arrested on 25th of July 2010, resigned on 25th of July 2010. And only when he was discharged on 30th of December 2014 did he become the Home Minister again on 26th of May 2014 of Gujarat, and that too after a CBI court, a special court of CBI Mumbai held that the case against him involved in this case was the CBI was basically, it was motivated by political reasons. Now, the reason why I gave this little bit of background and history is this bill is being brought first to ensure that there is no government paralysis. The second aspect is constitutional morality. Arnab, governments requires an unimpeachable integrity of the people who are part of it. The third aspect is that criminal custody obviously undermines that trust of the people. And also this bill is very fair. It actually balances accountability with fairness. And that is why it provides for
you do realize there are two pitfalls
here. CMs of ministers immediately.
Yeah, there are two pitfalls here. One pitfall is, you gave the example of Satyendra Jain. He has many cases against him, of course, but one of the key cases against him, investigated by the CBI, was recently closed. And the CBI filed a closure report, and the court dismissed the case against him. It will be equally argued, therefore, that if this law were to apply, he would lose his job, only to find out 8 months later, 8 months after losing his job, that the case itself had no basis. How fair is that?
I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful that you raised that point. Now, fact of the matter is, if there is an allegation and you are being investigated, because I also gave you the example of Mr. Amit Shah and I gave you the example of Mr. L.K. Advani as well. The case against Mr. Amit Shah was also quashed. The charges against Mr. L.K. Advani were also quashed. But they had the morality, the moral sense prevailed, and they resigned during the investigating process. Fact of the matter is, this country has seen people like Shri Arvind Kejriwal ji, who have insisted on operating from jail, causing an absolute government paralysis. And like I said, this bill is actually very balanced. because it balances accountability with fairness. The moment you are granted bail or you are discharged, you are allowed to be reappointed to that office. Another thing, Arnab, I must say, I'm a lawyer myself. 30 days are more than enough for the entire bail process and hearing to actually be taken place. I know you were talking about under trial prisoners when it comes to, in your introduction you were talking about that. But you also know that when it comes to CMs, ministers, chief ministers, etc., all lawyers are pretty proficient in going and mentioning the matters and getting them listed.
But that is
I'll try to tell you another thing.
But that is a matter of chance.
It actually brings uniformity.
But that is a matter of chance. You know, Sisodia was in jail for 17 months. Satendra...
No, Arnab, it's not. Yeah. It's not. No, it's not.
A mentioning does not mean that you will get justice.
Mentioning is a proper procedure which is... No, not necessarily, Arnab. I mean, mentioning is a process which is provided for whether it is High Court or Supreme Court. In fact, you have listed mentionings before the Honorable Supreme Court. So it is not a game of Russian roulette at all. The second aspect, you do realize that this particular law is not just for state chief ministers or state ministers. It is bringing the Prime Minister, the Union Minister...
Agreed.
The chief ministers, state ministers, all of them within the
gambit. Yeah, but agreed. You know what eventually happens here, just to play devil's advocate on this, what eventually happens in many cases, Bansuri, is that it is easier to arrest and get a person in a custody for a month than it is eventually to prove the case in court. We begin with that premise, right? You mentioned that a person, politicians, they are proactive, they can get their mentionings. Premise. But I would like to ask you on the question of vendetta. We cannot, be textbook and not accept that there is a lot of vendetta in the system. And this can encourage the process of arrest. In the case, for example, I'll tell you, when I was arrested, though I'm not a politician, I'll tell you this, when I was caught in what appears to be a political situation, it was entirely circumstantial that, my case came up twice. I had to go back and forth, lower court, high court, went up to the Supreme Court. If one day's hearing did not end, if Mr. Salve and Abhishek Singhvi did not end their arguments, and then they can drag it for another 15 days and get a hearing after another 15 days. Someone might say, let's do it once again and pretend not to complete our hearing so that our case goes up to beyond 1 month. So we cross the 1 month threshold. Therefore, when Chandrachud said in my case that the weaponization of the criminal justice system should not happen, but this gives an incentive to keep the person in custody, completely contrary to the judgment that Chandrachud gave in my case, which is now used as precedent. This can provide an incentive to keep an individual in custody for a few more days in order to create a politically volatile situation.
I do not agree. Let me assuage your concerns. First aspect. As far as criminal jurisprudence is considered, bail and not jail is the rule. The courts in this country are more inclined towards actually granting bail. Second, the criminal procedure itself today under the BNSS actually allows for remand only for 15 days. Okay. You can be granted remand for 15 days for the first 60 days, but it cannot be beyond 15 days, correct? Yeah. So nothing in the criminal procedure also permits to keep a man or a woman indefinitely beyond 30 days. And third, Arnab, we need to have that faith in the third pillar of democracy, which is the judiciary. The judiciary is independent of the executive or the legislature. Even if you are imputing some kind of malicious motive to the political machinery, that cannot be imputed to the judiciary. The judiciary is unbiased. And the application of judicial mind will always prevail. You are, my friend, an absolute living example of it. You had the Honorable Chief Justice Chandrachud make such pertinent observations in your case. And lastly, look, today this bill has been sent voluntarily by the Honorable Home Minister to the Joint Parliamentary Committee. So the JPC is going to deliberate on it.
Yep.
Any concerns that the oppositions or any other party may have,
Yep.
they will be addressed. This is going to be, the bill is going to be thrashed out.
Okay.
But I must say one last thing.
Yes, please.
You know what actually was so disheartening today was the conduct of the TMC MPs. They were unwilling to discuss the bill. If you're not happy with the bill, please discuss it. The parliament is a forum for discussion. But the way the women MPs of TMC actually came, जिस प्रकार की अभद्रता आज उन्होंने दिखाई है अर्नब जी, उन्होंने माइक को मैन हैंडल करा, उन्होंने कागज फाड़ के माननीय गृह मंत्री पर फेंके। मैं कहूंगी कि आज भारत का लोकतंत्र उन्होंने शर्मिंदा करा, भारत के मतदाता को शर्मिंदा करा, भारत के संविधान को शर्मिंदा करा।
That's no doubt. I completely agree with that. Flying paper planes there at the Home Minister is hardly some form of parliamentary debate. I thank you so much, Bansuri, for taking my questions out there. And I would like to now go straight into the debate.